Hi, my name is Christy Lee. Welcome back. Another episode of the Praise and Worship Podcast. And I'm so thrilled to be talking with Elevation Rhythm, Tiffany and Davide. Hey, guys.
Hey, Christy.
What's up?
I love your orange background. Is that legit or is it like a, Zoom background?
It is fully legit. It is like I am touching it and it's not doing anything. It is fully legit.
Nice. I talked with Tiffany like a year ago and so much has changed. So let's start first by getting a little caught up, right? So back when we last talked, Tiffany, you weren't married. Nobody knew about COVID and Elevation Rhythm was like right at the beginning. So let's get an update on how life is right now for you. First of all, congratulations on becoming a Mrs.
Thank you so much. Yes, I got married about 3 months ago. Nobody can see my ring, but I'm holding it up.
Get it closer to the camera. Get it closer to the camera. My eyes right here.
But yeah, it's been such an amazing season, just learning how to be married and all of that. And also for Elevation Rhythm, just feel like we've been writing a ton, working with a ton of different people that we love. And so it's been a really fun season for us.
I feel like you're downplaying all your accomplishments. She got married. She got a house.
I did get a house. Praise the Lord.
Come on, Tiff, tell the people they want to know.
Yes, I know. Davide he always helps me be like, no, this is amazing.
So yeah, it's been really cool just because Tiff and I have been friends for a while now, getting to like 3 years, 4 years, and so just to see her like almost like grow up is kind of like the best way to put it. Like I love her husband, mate. He is one of the coolest people ever. We have dinner all the time and like they're a really cool couple. We love them.
Now, what people might not know about your husband, Tiffany, is he often behind the cameras?
That's correct. Yes, he's a film director actually for Elevation Worship and for Elevation Rhythm. So we get to be at the same shoots a lot of the time. So it's been pretty fun. He spends all day just editing videos of me.
He does, and there's very little moments where they do fight. They do have artistic differences at times.
Artistic.
And it's funny to see Tiff like put her foot down and say, "Well, this is my thing, so you're gonna listen to me." She never says it that way, but it's just funny to see.
I'm in charge now.
I know. I was gonna say I don't think that's probably 100% a reenactment, but it's a good replay from your perspective. I love, Tiffany, that you said about learning how to be married. That is a great way to put it. Davide, I know you've been married for longer. Tell us a little bit about how long you've been married.
Yeah, so we're coming up on 5 years. Is it 6? Oh gosh, my wife will kill me right now. This is how not to be married, people. You always forget. No, I think we're actually coming up on 6 years of being married. That's exactly what it is. We got married in 2015. Married life is the best life, honestly, because you have someone who just knows you better than anyone else, who's got your back, but who can also get on your nerves. And so you really get to learn not just about the other person that you're in love with, but you really get to see a different side of who you are. I always tell people like marriage helps you realize how selfish you really are. And there's nothing like it.
That is so true, and that's such a great way to end it. There's nothing like it. Period.
There's nothing like
it.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, another place that involves a lot of collaboration and partnership is when you're working with other people on a team. So tell us about Elevation Rhythm. First of all, just give people the background because they might know Elevation Worship and be saying, well, what is that? So tell us, what is it?
Yeah, so Elevation Rhythm, the best way to put it would kind of be like the little sibling to Elevation Worship. And so Elevation Rhythm kind of was birthed out of the youth ministry of Elevation Church, which is, kind of where Elevation Worship comes from. And it really came from the heart of our pastor. By the way, I have an accent, so I'm not saying pasta, like the thing that you might eat. It's just my accent. I could say pastor just because I know my audience. And so it came out of the heart of our pastor, who was just really like, hey, like I really think that the next generation of worship needs to really come out of our house and the next expression of the same heart of worship. And so that's where Elevation Rhythm was birthed. It kind of came from a place where we would remix Elevation Worship songs, like kind of add like a new beat to it, some dance moves. And then that really came, to then evolving into like, okay, what if you actually started writing your own music and really, going 100% in with it. And Tiff and I were kind of trusted and entrusted with like, hey, like, let's just see what happens. Get in a room, write some songs. I'm not promising you that Elevation Rhythm is going to be a thing, but I just needed to serve the next generation of our church. And that was the birth of Elevation Rhythm. And what's really cool is within Rhythm is YTH, which kind of stands for our youth ministry. So we're Elevation Youth, YTH. And so Rhythm was always just there as like a Rhythm, RH, YTH, M. So that's another like little cool thing about the name.
That is cool. I love that. I love looking at things like that.
Yeah.
Now I love these two together, Davide and Tiffany. You guys, on at least from what I can tell, musically and in all of these videos that we get to see on social media, you guys click so well. Can you tell us a little bit more about your friendship, what you like about each other?
Absolutely. We always joke that it's only for publicity that we're friends, but behind the scenes, we're not friends. I'm just kidding. We truly are, like, we say a lot, like we're so thankful that God allowed us to like become friends and get to work together, because working with a friend is like just the best thing ever. And getting to just like really like grow in both of our giftings and callings and writing has been amazing. To do it with someone that is like a safe place. It's a friend. It's someone that believes in you, has your back. And so it's been incredible to get to work on just building Rhythm together, and we're just so excited.
It's been really cool. We definitely have like a really great friendship, and it also feels like a good sibling rivalry at times.
Brother,
as well.
sister, for sure.
It is a lot of that. Like when we're leading our teams on the weekend, they just make fun of us and like, yo, you guys are like brother and sister. And so I really,
he picks on me like a big brother.
I do, because you didn't grow up with any brothers.
No.
And so for the first like year of us like figuring out like our whole working environment, I was kind of like, I'm going to take you under my wing and you're going to be my little sister. And she's like, no, I'm not going to be your little sister. Like we're 50-50, we're partners. And I'm like, well, you're still going to be my little sister. And so
I hate to tell you, but that's classic how a big sibling and a little sibling would have done that, right? To be like, okay, I'm the big one. And to the little one to be like, no, you're not. I love that. So
my mom.
So let me ask a few more questions about how this goes together, because it seems like you guys are able to kind of go along with each other's ideas and also push more out of each other. At least that's how I feel when I see you guys engaging. So I want to know, between the two of you, who comes up with the most dance moves?
Not even a question. It is Davide all day long. It's actually comical that they think that I can keep up with Davide. So they just say, you just go up there with Davide and dance with him. I'm like, I can't dance at all.
But what Tiffany's not telling you is that she's got some moves of her own. Like Tiff's got like some rhythm, like when she really gets into a song and she just kind of like grooves out and she's bouncing with it. And so I always just try and like play off of her energy. But to be honest, I do come up with a lot of like weird dance moves. That's true.
Short answer is Davide.
Do you give her any suggestions of like, I see what you're doing, why don't you try this with your foot or your elbow or whatever? Like, do you help her along?
Very delicately, because I don't want to hurt her feelings and I want her confidence to still like remain. And so I'm not going to be like, hey Tiff, you're being weird. I'm just like, hey Tiff, I love what you're doing. Like, why don't you just like, add a little bit more shoulder in that movement? And she's like this. And I'm like, exactly. And I turn around and go, oh, that was a close call. People are going to think we're weird.
We've done a few TikToks, so I've learned a little bit.
Now, Davide, is shoulder usually your go-to? Like if somebody's like, I have no moves, I'd like to have a move. What's the first thing you can, how can you help people who need some moves?
What I always tell them is try and find just one body part that you can isolate, that you have a lot of control over. Because a lot of people try and dance, they just want to throw their whole body in. And I'm like, wait, just like, let's take it step by step. Shoulders.
Good. You never told me that.
I did, Tiff. Just like you already like 80% of the way there. Mm-hmm. So shoulders are usually the ones that you kind of have a lot of like control over, because you like shrug them and you don't know. And when you're sad, there we go, just like that. And so I'd be like, no, just vibe it out, just right there. There we go.
There it is. She knows.
I mean, and that's like a church worship dance move. That's something I can do Sunday mornings too.
Oh, of course you can, Christy. You've got the shoulder move down. You just like praise the Lord with your shoulders right there.
I love it.
Your hands.
Oh.
Yeah. I just like talking about with you because I think it's hilarious. And I think people, if they could just relax a little bit, would have a lot more success probably with dancing. Is that one of the biggest keys too? Like just stop trying so hard.
Yeah, and I think that's why rhythm kind of it really is like has its identity in trying to give people the freedom to be themselves. And so a lot of the time when we kind of speak about anytime we're going to be leading worship, we say, hey, what if we were the definition of the most like crazy out there people loving God? Will that give, you know, someone else the freedom to say, well, if they can look like idiots on stage, then maybe I can clap my hands in my seat. And so it really is like, let's just give people the freedom to express themselves and not take themselves too seriously, because like that's what joy is. You know, the Bible tells us that David danced, you know, and so it's like, hey, like you can be free, whatever dancing looks like to you. Don't, you know, be so stiff and be like, oh, I need to have all the dance moves. If, you know, snapping your fingers is enough for you, hey, do that. You know, there's a lot of freedom.
I think that's just a good life lesson. I think maybe the older you get, you start to realize you don't have to try so hard, right? You can just relax. Even in your Christian walk, you know, it doesn't have to be so rigid. It really is about just this relaxed, genuine, not performance in life, but just, you know, just going through it a little easier.
Yeah.
A whole word right there. So good.
And I need to take notes. I'm like, Christy's preaching. I'm like, where's my Bible? Like, I need to take notes right now.
Yes.
Oh man, I love turning anything into a devotional. a little bit of that. But I want to talk more about you two. And so here's another question. Out of the two of you, who comes up the most with like song lyrics and song ideas? Like who has all the phrases coming out of them?
Tiffany walks around with her journal. Like it's insane. Anytime we sit down for, you know, like a song, we have our producer, his name is Josh Holiday, and usually he like starts tinkering on the keys, and Tiff will be like, okay, so I had this idea, and like I just felt like, you know, like God was just kind of like speaking to me, and like, and she just has like pages and pages of lyrics. And so she's definitely like the lyric queen is what I like to call her when we sit down and write together.
Well, thank you for the compliment. But truth be told, it is such a partnership. Even our producer too. It's just, I throw out something, he makes it better. Then Josh, you know, throws in an even better melody. And so it's really a partnership. Yeah,
a lot of our songs start off as conversations more than anything. Of like, hey, like, you know, what are you going through this week? Or, you know, what has God maybe been teaching you, you know, over the last, you know, 3 days? And then that usually like evolves into us feeling like, oh man, I can totally relate to that. And then Josh will be like, well, I was actually thinking about this and I read this in the Bible. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, let's write about that. And then that kind of progresses. And then that's when like just the queen of Tiff's lyrics, when she starts paging back and forth through her journal, kind of is like, oh, I wrote that down like 2 years ago and I didn't know what I was going to need it for. I'm like, well, that sounds absolutely perfect for this song. So
that's awesome. We're going to dig into some of their songs on the way in just a little bit, but I have another question. I'm curious, you guys have so many great videos on social media. Some of them are, you know, like the lyric videos or the music video for the songs. And some of them are just kind of fun, sitting around random stuff. Who comes up with a lot of these video concepts?
I mean, we really do have like a whole team of just creatives that have just dedicated their time to building what rhythm is. And like Davide was sharing, like the heart, the freedom that we want to express in our music is also what we want to do with our videos. And so we really do have a team of people that are all kind of dedicated to brainstorming. And then of course they bring Davide and I in as well to kind of like, hey, is this in the right direction of the heart of this song or the message of this lyric? So yeah.
Collaboration, as you can tell, is really key in what we do. We try our best to not make it just about like two specific people, because the last thing we want to do is try and build something that God wants to do in a lot of people just on two, you know, just imperfect individuals. And so we rely a lot on our team and people that we trust, and, you know, and so usually kind of the process of what a video looks like is we write the songs, you know, and then we get in a group chat or in a group text with a lot of our creatives who go, oh, well, when I heard this lyric, I thought of this. Does that match up with what you guys were thinking? And we'll go, yeah, but not quite, because we actually like, you know, like this lyric actually is the foundation of what the song actually was around. So if you want to think along like the pictures and and so then that becomes like a whole brainstorm thing that we get brought into. And so it really is like a whole team sport right here with rhythm.
Yeah.
One of my very favorite videos and one of my very favorite songs from over the past year is Walk on Water, right? So much fun and such a great, oh man, we kind of need a jam like that for a tough season that's as uncertain as getting out of a boat onto water, which doesn't seem like it's going to go very well. It's kind of felt like 2020. And so that song I think is awesome, but you got to dance with like an internet famous weatherman, do a little puddle jumping. How fun was that?
It was crazy. Like, we had no idea if that was even gonna happen. Like
Fox 46
Nick was like never, it was just like, hey, because the whole thing was we wanted the video to just kind of feel just like it's a fun, like just dancing, and just like we wanted it to be on TikTok and just like people could play the song and their kids could try and do the dance to it, but then also like, you know, more seasoned dancers could also try and figure out the moves. And so one of our creatives was just like, what if we brought in Fox 46 Nick? And we're like, what if we brought in Fox 46 Nick? And then out of the blue, they were like, he actually lives in Charlotte. He's actually done some stuff with our youth ministry like 2 years ago. I actually know a friend who knows a friend who can get in contact with him. And then he showed up and we were like, we're doing this.
What a guy. So awesome.
That was so fun. I love that. It's like the cherry on top of what's already a great song, but then to have all of that along with it, just it got better and better and better. Now to flip that from that song to Quiet. So this is a song that we're spinning on WJTL, and I'd love to hear first just the story behind the song.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so glad that y'all are playing it. That song means so much to us. Honestly, like Davide was saying, like that song just started from a conversation. It was kind of in the beginning of quarantine, talking about the isolation people are going through. And then it was a conversation about the struggle, and it flipped to, well, what if God wants to speak to us in these moments where we're all isolated, we all feel lonely, we're all trying to figure out, you know, there's people left and right telling us different things and nobody knows what to believe about anything. And so we're like, what does God want to say? What if we just need to quiet our hearts, quiet our minds, and just listen to God? So that's really the heart behind the song.
Yeah, because it was written like about 3 months into quarantine, and the conversation started with just like how it just felt like there was a lot of just like noise happening. You know, it was the riots and Black Lives Matter protests, and then it just kind of felt like a lot of our youth just felt like they were disconnected because they weren't around their friends anymore. And then social media was just, the whole world just kind of seemed loud at the point in time. And our conversation really led to a place where we were like, well, you know, what if there was a way that we could help people just like be able to try and figure out a way to shut out all the noise and to really try and realize that like God is speaking in those moments, but in order to hear God, sometimes we have to be silent and we need to be quiet. And then that kind of led into the progression of like, okay, like that's why even the cadences in the verses are like, here we go again, my mind. It's meant to feel chaotic and like almost like it's all over each other. But then once that chorus hits, I'm like, I'll just be quiet. Just like as soon as it just kind of opens up and we're like, hey, let's create a song that will hopefully give people the ability to create space within their own lives to hear from God and to get the direction that they need, instead of, you know, like spending 24 hours a day on your cell phone and just being hit with so many other voices. Let's be intentional about giving God the time and the area to speak so we can pay attention to his voice.
Well, first of all, thank you for a little bit of singing in the middle of an interview. I give myself like a few bonus points every time somebody does that. It's like interview gold. So there you go. You can have some points too. That was awesome. You can tell that Davide can sing, he can dance, he can, you know, preach, all of this stuff. And sometimes I guess all at the same time, but that was awesome. Thank you for that. This is one of those songs that you have a studio version and also an acoustic stripped down version of. Which one is resonating more with you guys right now? Do you have a favorite? I'm sure it goes like back and forth, but which one are you relating to more right now?
hard question.
I know.
It's a tough question. It's like asking, if we had kids, like, who's your favorite kid?
Yeah, that's true.
Do you want me to go first while you think about it?
Sure.
I think we're gonna have the same answer, but probably right now the stripped version probably is my favorite. Just because also that was the version that kind of came out of a place where we wrote the faster version, if you want to kind of call it that, the original first, and then we're kind of sitting at the end of the day and just kind of felt like, man, it's so much peacefulness in just like keeping it so open. And so I would say the stripped version is my favorite because that's the one I play in the background when I'm kind of reading my Bible and having my like one-on-one time with the Lord. You read your Bible when
I'm singing?
I do.
I'm honored. I'm truly honored. I love the original version because of how sonically it portrays the message of the song. So that is my favorite. But when we do it live, we love to do the stripped version and just let it sit for a bit and let really just like the message of it soak in into the environment. So
yeah, both versions are incredible because Tiff is just an singer.
Oh,
I mean, and it's great because it is the same song, but it almost turns into two different songs. You know what I mean? And they function differently and are useful at different times and everything. But anyway, I love them. Love the whole meadow for all of that in the video. So people can check that out on social media too. But the latest release from Elevation Rhythm is If You Know, You Know. Let's talk a little bit about that one. Who wants to share the story behind that song?
Yeah. If you know, IYKYK. Man, I think what's really cool is I think we wrote that song in like July last year or something. We had like a quick 3-day writing camp that we decided to have. And we were kind of getting ready for our big youth conference that we do as a church here in July. It's called WJTL. And we're just kind of like trying to figure out are there songs that we could write that will serve the purpose of our youth ministry? And actually my wife was going to be preaching at the youth conference, and she was working on a sermon called IYKYK. And so we had been like trading ideas about it. And so when we were trying to figure out a song, I was like, well, Gina and I have been really like speaking about this idea of like, where you're trying to figure out like in life, like as a young person, like who am I supposed to be? Like, what am I supposed to do? And even when you get older, like what are the right choices that I'm supposed to make? Like, do I take this job opportunity or not? Like, do I marry this person or not? And we really were just like talking about how, well, sometimes it's not really what you know that matters, but who you know that matters. And then when we got to that realization of like, well, if you know God, then everything else will kind of realign in life. And then we started like messing around with what's a cool way to kind of put it. And then like we both lead groups, and it's like with some youth in it, and it's like IYK was just the thing that was like being thrown around. And so we're like, if you know, IYKYK. And we wrote the song as just like this fun, energetic thing of like, if you know who I know, then I keep doing that. And and it really was also just like a way to say, hey, like we wanted it to feel like it's not just about you knowing, but how can you make other people aware of the thing that you found? Because that's the whole basis of Jesus's ministry, was to let people know. So it was always intriguing, like, okay, if you know, well, if you don't know, we're about to tell you what you need to know. So that's the whole kind of premise of the song.
Awesome song. Also, I'm sure makes for a great warm up because you got to be able to do the octave, right? So you got to be able to hit the low and the high. Does it take a lot of warming up for you to be able to nail that every time?
Oh, it is a workout. Yeah. We were talking today because we're rehearsing the song with Chris, and he was like, every time I try to sing that note, I feel like I can't sing, because you're not really meant to sing it, you're meant to shout it. So it's kind of like the difference with like people trying to sing like, we will rock you. It's like, it's pretty when you sing it, but when you're like, we will, there's like a shoutiness to it. And so I always try to tell people, like, you're not supposed to sing, if you know, you're supposed to go, if you know. It's like a powerful, like just like yell, screamy thing about it. So yes. I get really weirded out about those things. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yell, screaming, especially with youth ministry. I feel like you are on the right track. right?
Right.
Yeah.
It is. We wanted to feel like there's just like a whole group just like trying to rush the stage, or just like a whole like mob mentality in like the right way. Just like, hey, like we know something that's going to change the world, and we're not going to remain quiet about it. So if you don't know, you're about to know by the time we're done with the song.
That's right.
That's awesome. And that is something that so many people are talking about right now as believers. I mean, for all generations to be able to stand up and to somehow portray truth and who God is, and so much for culture, society. So it's great to have that encouragement right now, you know?
Yeah.
I'm sure you know. I mean, IYKYK. So, right. Who needs vowels anymore?
Exactly. And it's so funny when, and I need to share this story with you, but sometimes we do it in church, in what we would say big church.
Right.
And the very first time we did it, it was just hilarious to see people's faces, because we literally put the lyric up as IYKYK, and they were kind of like,
how do you sing this?
How do you sing this? They're like, and it was just like, it was hilarious to see. But then after we did it the first time, they kind of realized, oh, IYK stands for if you know, you know. And that's really like the whole point of the song is like, at first you don't know, but by the next time we do it, you're like, it was really cool for us to just see like the progression of like, oh, that's what it is. It's like, yeah, like that's the way the people's eyes need to be open when they realize who God is. It's like, oh, like this is what life is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Mic drop on that. Interview over. Actually, ironically, we're at the end of the time here. So I'll just highlight again, IYKYK is out now. You can check that out. Quiet, if you haven't seen the video yet, check that out. And also the other version, studio and the stripped down one too. Tiffany and Davide, thank you so much for talking to me today. Love hanging out with you, and I'll hang out with you again next time on social media and just watch what you guys are, doing acoustic guitars and random dance moves. A lot of good tips today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christy. You're the best.